This episode is brought to you by Chimera Coffee. Go to chimeracoffee.com, type in the coupon code Show the Art, and save 10% off all their products. Their main product is their nootropic infused coffee. Their coffee beans come from the Dominican Republic, and they have this like chocolatey taste to it. You can make it cold brew, you can make it hot, whatever you like. The nootropics are supposed to help your brain function a little bit faster. You know, sometimes you're thinking of that word and you can't think about it. Well, studies have shown that nootropics can help with that issue. I take it. It makes me feel good. I do feel like I am not struggling to find words, especially when I drink the coffee. So go to chimeracoffee.com, type in the coupon code Show the Art, and save 10%. Our next sponsor is Inverted Gear. Go to invertedgear.com, type in the coupon code ShowTheArt15, and you can save 15% off your entire order. That includes all their jiu-jitsu gis, their rash guards, their shorts. They have new spats now. Go to their website. They got t-shirts, and type in the coupon code ShowTheArt15 and save 15% off. They have been sticking with us for a long time. They're good friends of ours, the people that run it, Nelson and Hillary. They have excellent customer service, and they offer a product that is high quality without the huge price tag. So go to invertedgear.com, type in the coupon code ShowTheArt15, and save yourself some money. Today's episode is a little different. A friend of mine, Gabriel Messuti, has his own podcast, and he actually invited me on his. It's called In the Studio with Gabriel Messuti. And we thought it would be a cool idea to release half of it on this show, the Show the Art podcast, and the other half on his show. And just to kind of mingle listeners so people from his side of things can, you know, get engaged with our podcast and vice versa. So this episode is actually an interview of me, Abe. And if you listen to this episode, it's the first half of the episode from his podcast. If you want to listen to the second half, if you think my story is pretty cool, or you want to hear more, you're just kind of at the edge of your seat. You're like, man, I want to know the rest of Abe's life. Go to Gabe's podcast. I have the link in the info, and you can listen to the second half. I appreciate him for interviewing me. It's fun to, you know, talk about my life sometimes, even though I'm not the type of dude to do that. But he's a really cool guy, a great podcaster, a great interviewer. He got a lot of info out of me, and I hope you guys enjoy the whole thing. Like I said, check out his podcast, In the Studio with Gabriel Messuti. And it's on SoundCloud, I believe, and Vimeo. The audio and video is up, so I'll put the links out for you guys to see. And I hope you enjoy.
All right, brother, we're live.
Cool. What's up, man?
All right, finally.
Welcome to the Gabriel Messuti podcast.
Yeah, and the Show the Art Coach Abe Awad podcast, huh?
Yeah, this sounds good, man. Your setup is nice.
Thank you.
These microphones are powerful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man.
So, thanks for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
For sure.
And
my pleasure.
Yeah, man. You just finished filming Chris Wright's,
yes,
which is great. You have the Show the Art Academy ready to pop, so you're out here.
Yeah. Filming at your lovely studio? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Academy studio.
Spa.
Yeah. Recovery center.
There you go. Nice, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Chris is he's a great yogi, right? Is that what you call him?
Yeah.
Yoga instructor, professor,
Yeah.
guru.
Yeah.
Or not yet.
Oh. Hey, man, to each his own, you know?
Yeah. No, he's fantastic. And, we just got some filming done of him doing some headstands and forearm stands and postures and stuff like that.
You know, it's interesting how you say, like, guru or not yet. And that's what Chris and I talk about. And I've been speaking a lot about in the quote-unquote yoga industry, or what's going on here, is the quality control coach. There's no way to check it like you can if if I wanted to teach jujitsu here and someone would walk in and check me and be like, oh yeah, what's up? Like you come in and.
Oh, you're the teacher here? All right, let's roll.
Let's roll.
You slap hands in 5 minutes. It really depends on what happens.
Real talk.
Which will put you at the totem pole.
Yeah. Real talk. So, but how do you do that? Like we're going to have like a downward dog face off?
You can't. No.
So it loses quality. So we're working on bringing that system of checks and balances into the equation and some type of quality control. Mm-hmm. So we can see what's up with that.
Yeah. I was talking to Chris about the same thing. He mentioned that you guys had talked about this.
Yeah.
And I compared it to photography, the photography industry. My wife, Sarah, she's a photographer. She does weddings and, events and stuff like that. So that industry has taken a hit in recent years because of the advent of the technology and how much cheaper it is. So now anybody will go to the store, buy a Canon 5D, whatever, $2,000. They can afford it and buy a lens, used lens from somebody. Normally costs $3,000. Now they're buying it for $1,000. They got this whole setup.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Can I curse on this?
Yeah, of course. Okay. Man.
Oh crap. They have this nice setup. They have this equipment, and it gives them this power. But what they're missing is the vision. And meanwhile, you have people like Sarah, who studied this in school, who studied more than just photography, but art. Painting, drawing, scenery, sculpture, everything. And she knows what looks good and why it works together. Why green and blue might work together. Not just because, it looks good to me.
Yeah.
I know nothing about colors, right? I know red is red, blue is blue. I know nothing of why red and yellow looks good on Hulk Hogan.
Right.
So, but someone like her who studied this in school, she knows what it is. Long story short, you get these people that can buy this technology and they're charging a lot less. They do one job. Yeah, the pictures look good because the camera, anybody can shoot, and anybody can shoot something that looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Take a picture of something that looks beautiful. Everybody's wedding is designed to look beautiful.
Yeah.
But can you make something that doesn't, what's beneath the surface of that picture, it doesn't necessarily look beautiful or stand out, but you take that shot, you have that vision, and wow, holy crap.
Well, Coach,
that's an amazing picture.
I understand exactly what you're saying because it happened with the music industry first, like the whole Napster, iTunes, and when music started. So music production software, because the files were smaller and it's easier, like that got hit first. And then everything went from being outside the box like this to everything in plugins and being digital. And anyone, before you know it, was like a producer and ready to go.
Yeah.
And then the same thing started to happen with the video industry. And I saw it coming and I was like, the whole how Shutterstock and these places now have, stock video that you can buy and all that. And then the files are getting smaller and technology is increasing and it's getting easier and easier.
And cheaper, most importantly.
Yeah. And it's like, it's becoming just like computers, how much the computers used to cost back in the day. And now they keep increasing exponentially in the processing power and dropping in price. So it's like this crazy offset. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting with photography, like you were talking about, or using the tools is like being able to replicate something on purpose. There's this guy who runs the Creative Live podcast, which I'll send over to you. And he just got asked this question about gear, Coach. And the guy was talking and he said, listen, forget gear. Like if you think you can get like the next 5.3 or the next Canon Mark III or Mark IV that's out now, and it's got like more auto point focuses, or you're going to shoot sports, so you want to get like crazy frames per second or whatever. He's like, when I first started, I had 2 or 3 frames per second and I was doing sports, and like I figured out like the best way to shoot with the gear I had. So now he can do it on purpose. Mm-hmm. It's not a fluke or a setting.
Exactly.
And that's just like jujitsu. It comes down to like, that's why show the art's so powerful to me, because it's like, show your art, show what you're capable of. Mm-hmm. On the flip side though, like the paradox is like, it's kind of cool when someone throws something together that's so out of line that you didn't learn in school.
True, yeah, definitely.
So like there's times for that too. Like when like, Tony Black would only put the swing up on the MP3 for the beat to like 50%, and then he'd go and see like the hip hop producer and he's got like cranked to 99, but it's like the beat slamming and swinging, but he wouldn't have thought of that.
Sure. No, that's a great example. If your photographer, quote unquote, can take a beautiful picture with their iPhone or their Samsung phone or whatever, their cell phone, they can do it with that $3,000 camera and that $3,000 lens, and they have 4 different ones of those.
Yeah.
The equipment is irrelevant. The equipment allows you to shoot with a maximum quality and more conditions. That's really all it's doing.
Yeah.
Right? It opens the umbrella wider.
Yeah.
But the knowledge and the vision has to be there. And if you can't shoot beautiful pictures with your iPhone, forget about it. You're not a real photographer, honestly.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, your friend or the person that had the podcast, they can shoot anything.
Right.
They don't need the equipment.
Right.
2 frames per second back in the day.
Same things with an instrument, coach. Like you can have the most beautiful Stradivarius, this beautiful piano, and like someone that can get on there that doesn't really know what they're doing, doesn't sound that good, but a guy who can feel it, a musician who can really feel it, or a pianist can get on, and the way they hold the strings and the bow and the way they play, it just sounds like
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another guy comes on. Clunky. They just started learning.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Or even somebody that's very experienced, but you don't feel it.
Just the feel.
How do you feel it? What is that? That's something you can't calculate. That's something you can't just learn.
Yeah.
That's something that comes with experience. And experience is probably one of the number one things in any art form, right?
Absolutely.
Gaining the experience, failing, learning, failing, then perfecting. You don't perfect overnight. You don't perfect after the first try.
No way. Learning what you don't want is just as important, or what not to do, as what to do. Right? Like, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. So, I guess the yoga industry is taking a hit with inexperienced people that learned from nobody in particular.
Well, it's more like this, coach. It's more like there's this association that says you can be a black belt and you just pay. So imagine if jiu-jitsu had an association that was like the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Alliance, and it said that
don't say alliance, because there is a jiu-jitsu team called Alliance, and they're the biggest jiu-jitsu team.
Right, but you can't. But they don't front. You can't pay them to get your black belt.
Oh no,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so like this is literally called the Yoga Alliance. Nothing to do with Alliance in Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
So it's literally, you can Google it. It's called the Yoga Alliance, and you pay whatever it is, and you do your teacher training, and then as your teacher, you pay fees to them every year. And they say, okay, you're certified to be a yoga teacher, but there's nothing, like that's all it is. No one comes and checks you. You know, there's no system of checks and balances. And I ran some rough math with Chris on our podcast when we were together, and average time to become a purple belt, 5 to 6 years, 2,000 hours approximately, just like a weighted average.
Okay. What is that, like 2-3 classes a week?
2-3 classes a week, that type of thing. Yep. Just ballpark. You're taking 5 years, you're condensing it into like a couple months training, or however long they run these trainings for, to 200 hours, in which like that's diluted down to some is philosophy and sutras and that type of talks. You're not just practicing teaching and on your craft or anatomy and science, that, you know, what you really need to understand. So it just, and then they're letting these teachers out there. And I'm not saying that these teachers even are bad people, or they may not even get it. They may not even thinking that far ahead, because they're so passionate about doing what they're doing. And it's like, oh, I'm going to get this degree, I'm going to do that, you know, like, but it's not where it's at. And it's not. So
how many hours did you calculate on the yoga side for something like the Yoga Alliance?
Well, the standard is a 200-hour training is what I'm telling you.
Just 200.
It's 10% of what it would be before you let me teach. Well, Marcos, and I mean, you can confirm this, and Chris Wright said, probably you want to be around a purple belt, purple to brown. So 2,000 to 3,000, 4,000 hours before I'm even allowed to even start teaching jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Agree with that?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay. So take 10% of that, which is 200 hours, and people are going to go fly, little bird.
That's crazy.
Go teach.
Yeah.
It's like.
Even blue belt, right? Some schools will let you teach at blue belt, you know, like kids classes or teens. You know, if it's a small adults class, hey, can you cover for me? I have confidence in you. You got a couple stripes on your blue belt. But even that, it's 2-3 years we're talking. Yeah. That's how many hours. And if you're a blue belt that has put in 5 days a week as opposed to 3 days a week, that number that's more condensed.
Yeah.
Right. But how do you figure out that with yogis, right?
Right. Where's the test? Because I get on the mat with you, and you'll, you know, let me do certain things and see what my reaction is. And even to get a stripe on my white belt, you'll give me like a limb, or you give me an arm or an opening, and see if I take it. How do you test that, really, other than put me in front of the class and see if I can verbally cue properly? Yeah. So, but that's what we get to figure out, you know, rather than bitching about it. I want to solve the problem and figure it out. But that's where that's at.
And then it's like, how do you... I guess I see what you're going, but how do you put something like that together? Obviously, you need to put together quote unquote a committee of people, and these committee of people are qualified to say you can teach, right? They have so much experience. How do you pay for those people to be seen in front of that one person who is trying to teach?
Yeah.
Or even if you don't pay, how do you get that scenario to happen with all these instructors? That's where it gets complicated.
Right.
And I guess that's why it's very hard to do that with yoga. Whereas jiu-jitsu, just go to your school,
Right.
roll with the instructor once, you know where he's at.
Yeah. Definitely got to
that.
figure it. It's like, it's not as easy as 1, 2, 3. That's right. So that's what we got to figure out.
Thanks. But good luck.
Yeah. So coach, how long have I been coming to Subforce for? 6 months?
Yeah.
About
sure.
that?
Yeah, I would say so.
Fair enough to say.
Yeah.
So I've known you for about 6 months now.
Yeah.
And man, just you, Marcos, Subforce, Show the Art, just really taken from inception from the first time I met you guys, just like really blown away. And I wanted to have you on so we could like know who Abe Awad is, like Abraham. Like I want to just let the world know you're a husband, a friend, a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, involved in Subforce. Show the Art is your brand.
Co-creator of Subforce.
Co-creator of Subforce. Co-creator of Show the Art is the proper way to say it, with Marcos also. And just the branding's on point. Like
Thanks,
I tell Marcos and everyone, I'm like, man, I see it's like it could be a collection next to one another. Like Summus and the branding and the way things go, they just go side by side. And I also, for everybody listening, the part that I feel or I felt was lacking, and this could just be my own experience and reflection of myself, but that I felt was lacking from where everyone's trying to be like all spiritual stuff on the yoga side, I found that more in Subforce.
Okay.
I found that more in jiu-jitsu with you and Marcos and Chris Wrights, and like just the transparency. And maybe it's because you're going to get choked if it's not, but at the end of the, like, it's, there's just no room for bullshit.
Yeah.
There's no manipulative drama, like passive aggressive shit, because I guess it just all gets left on the mat. And
Sooner or later.
Yeah.
Sooner or later. Yeah, for sure.
And it's a beautiful space. So man, like, can we just start from the beginning?
Sure.
How'd you get
Ask
here?
away.
Yeah, man. So where you from originally? Your background on your parents? Like, I'd just love to know about you.
Okay. I grew up in the mean streets of Jersey City. Decent neighborhood. My parents always lived in Jersey City, but we moved when I was like, an infant to the house that I grew up in.
Yeah.
So it was a house. It was a nice house, 2 floors, basement. Can't go wrong. Front yard, backyard. Pretty good, right?
Yeah.
2 blocks down, it's all apartment buildings. 2 blocks down to the west, all apartment buildings. Huge, like, Indian population. Indian and Pakistani population. Across the street from that, huge African-American gang population. 2 blocks east, back to houses. You don't know who these people are, just normal, regular. So where I grew up, it was a weird, and most of Jersey City is like this, is a weird combination of urban and suburban, like interchangeable. As you drive down 1 block, it's like, what the hell? Like it's like driving through the woods and then 2 blocks later, you're in the desert. It's weird. So that's kind of where I grew up. And
now, were you born here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in Jersey City.
And your parents are from Egypt?
No, my mom she was born in America. Her parents were like part German, part Italian, kind of a mix.
Okay.
But my dad was born in Egypt, yes.
Okay. Now, your dad's Muslim, and your mother was also, or your mother was Christian, or?
She converted. Yeah. So I was raised as a Muslim, yeah.
Awesome, man. And so Jersey City, dad's from Egypt. Now, where in Egypt? Because you've gone back a couple times, right? And you like Great Pyramids. Like, can you see them from your house over there? That type of thing, or are you?
No, my dad's from Cairo. Cairo's huge.
Yeah.
So not exactly from where he's at. The pyramids are in
Giza.
There we go. Yeah. So you kind of have to drive, but it's weird. As you start driving to Giza to visit the pyramids or to do whatever you want, really, you're on the highway, and then there's buildings. They're building apartment buildings and stuff like that.
Crazy.
And you're driving, and then you're like, holy crap! Just see these pyramids it almost seems like the fog. It's not the fog. It's just far away. in the haze, I would say. And then as you get closer, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So, you know, Egypt, and then just Cairo itself, just a really interesting, really amusing and fun place. And the people there are great. I don't really look Middle Eastern. I mean, if I said I am or I'm part, you would, oh yeah, I kind of see it. But for the most part, especially if I'm walking around with my wife, Sarah, she's, you know, 99% white, you know. So, you know, I can easily pass for just a plain old American. I don't know where he's from. So people assumed a lot of times that I didn't speak any Arabic, and they would come up to us and just talk to us nice. They would encourage that we would go back to America and say, hey, tell them we're nice people. Yeah. We want them to come. We're great people here. Don't believe everything you hear in the media.
Right.
I mean, sure, some shit goes down, but it's not everywhere.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's kind of Egypt in a nutshell. The food's great. People are great. My family's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
cool.
That's Egypt.
So then you were born in Jersey City, raised there, and then would you go to high school there? Did you?
Yeah. So like I said, I grew up in this one particular area in Jersey City called the Heights. I went to a Muslim private school for a lot of that time until high school. Oddly, 2 years, like 4th grade and 8th grade, I went to public school, which was the public school right next to my house. So I would literally walk down the block, walk another block, and that's my public school.
Yeah.
So if class started at 8:30, I could leave at 8:25. I could leave at 8:28, and I'll be there in time. And then if I go the other way, so that's one way.
Yeah.
School, right? You must.
Right.
If you went the other way, down the block to the right, one block, it's the park. That's the other place I must go.
Yeah.
And I would go there all the time, whether it was that park or the other park, and just play basketball. That was my youth. Just me and my brother, my friends, we would just
staying active.
Either go park 1, park 2, or travel all the way across and just play basketball.
The diversity of all those blocks in Jersey City, did those kids meet up at the park also? So you were hanging with Indians and blacks, and you were just with a bunch of different kids?
Yes. I mean, when you're on the basketball court, from my experience, there wasn't many Indian people.
Yeah.
I you know, a lot more African American people, a lot more black people, Hispanic, you know, some Middle Eastern, but you know, most people in urban areas that play basketball are black. It's simple as that. So that's the type of crowd I grew up with. And you know, I kind of spent a lot of time playing basketball and learning about life. And you know, first time I knew what weed was or smelled weed was I was playing a game. And I'm like, what the hell is that smell?
Yeah.
That's weird. Oh, is that? Oh, they're smoking marijuana. Oh, that's what it is. Or seeing people get jumped playing basketball, or seeing people's bikes get stolen, or my basketball gets stolen, or you know, you deal with a lot of different things, people coming in and out. But the good thing is, you keep going back to the same place. People start to get to know you. They start to, even if you don't know each other's name, you recognize each other. Oh, I'll pick you up.
Yeah.
Or you know each other. There's not like weirdness, you know. So it really takes time. It's hard for people to just come and do whatever they want because no one knows you.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, they have this, a lot of people in urban areas have this like barrier.
Yeah.
You know, they
well, it's kill or be killed, man.
Exactly. And granted, I'm making it sound like I grew up, you know, in the projects. I did not. I was around a lot of people that did.
But it's one step removed, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all mixed here.
Yeah.
I spoke about that with Cam on another podcast. It was like, who do you like, man, gang members and things like that. Who do you think's doing these $10 an hour jobs and delivering your furniture or dropping off your groceries and stuff? Where do you who else is going to do it?
Yeah.
You know?
And on the same token, I've met so many people that just so happen to live in the projects, to be born in the projects. Mm-hmm. Just like I just so happen to be born with the family that I had that were able to move into a house.
Yeah.
They just so happen to be born and grew up in the projects that are great people, that don't want to live there for the rest of their lives, that have good influences in their life. But as they walk to school, they face all these negative problems, all these negative people.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just weird because you'll see that same person at school. That's your great friend, really cool. They really like you. They're your friend, you know, like a friend should be, ride or die. And then you take them to the hood, they kind of have to put on this facade, even though they might not be that person deep down inside. You see that when you're hanging out and you're just chilling, you're by yourselves, or you're playing basketball and laughs and fun. But then the second they go to that specific environment, you kind of have to put on this cloak, if you will. And
they're no different than the CEO with the suit and tie that does this. Everyone's got their costume, coach.
Yeah, and everybody, it's just no one wants to get hurt.
Yeah,
you know, in the hood, you don't want to get hurt. So you have to put on this facade that you're the toughest. One of the toughest people that you shouldn't be messed with, or that you know these people. Oh, I know that guy. I know that guy. You're either the toughest guy or you know everybody.
Well, it reverts back to alpha male, like tribal shit. Like it's going to go back to as primitive as it is.
Yeah,
dominance.
Exactly. So you know, growing up, I kind of got the best of both worlds. I grew up in a good family. No crime in my house. No one went to jail.
Well, and that's the thing too. That's what I wanted to also bring up here, coach. Is you know, there's this huge gorilla. Not in this room with you and I, because we've had this discussion. I've spoken to you about it before, but out there with like Islamophobia, if you will, or what's going on in the news and how they portray, like you're saying, the guys in Egypt were telling you to go back home and tell everyone like it's not what the media is making it look like. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important. In my past trainings, I had my coach Hasnain, and this was more like business type trainings and consulting and personal development type thing, not jujitsu. And then Maria Moses, who was my Zach, who just died, my cousin Zach's buddy, and they went through, and he's also my buddy in another training, all Muslim, and were huge impacts on my life, and were completely different than like so far. I'm like, what the like? Either they're so full of shit and are so good at like hiding it, or like or they're, you know what I mean? It's just so black and white. Now I know there's extremists.
That's the problem
in every group. You know, you have extremists in Catholicism, people burning each other and blowing, and like and so I just wanted here to like let the world hear, if you don't know or you're not close friends with someone that's a Muslim, like. They're amazing people, no different. They're just like, I don't.
Yeah. I guess over the years I've had to face these questions and figure out my answer, right? If you will. Again, I grew up, it's like being black, but not looking black. So you grew up in the environment and your family faces all these questions and you see it firsthand, but you never get the racism, right? You never get not get the job because you're black, or you never, you know, get looked at, or people walk across the street because you look thuggish or whatever.
Like being in the army but not seeing combat.
That's it. Yeah. So I mean, granted, I've got my fair share of people degrading me, but like anybody, nothing more than the average person. So I got my fair share of the understanding without having to be labeled too far on that end. And I don't know, man. I think most of the people in the world that are Muslim are not extremists. And like you said, every group has the extreme. And unfortunately, in the Islamic culture or Islamic religion, the extremists, their idea of what's right is like pretty extreme. It's the most extreme that I guess people consider these days, right? Mm-hmm. Because they like to bomb people, they like to cut people's heads off, so on and so forth.
Also, Coach, I just read a study that said, and maybe this is their interpretation of the Quran or whatever, and you would know much better than me, but it says that Muhammad said that it was okay to marry your first cousin, and that in that, I don't know if they're interpreting it differently, but because of that, the inbreeding has lowered down the IQ. And same thing as like...
It's very possible.
Same thing as a redneck, right? But because of the inbreeding, or that can happen in any other...
Sure. It's kind of not... It's looked down upon. I think that might be... might play a factor, for sure.
But the point was that if you take the IQ, once the IQ, I believe, is at 80 or 90, and I can send you some links, and if we remember, put them in the show notes. But when you get to that, if you look at the way that person acts psychologically, Coach, it almost describes ISIS or describes like someone setting their church on. Yeah, crazy people.
Crazy, yeah.
So it's literally
IQ,
a like deform in genetics.
Sure. I think that might play a factor. I don't know of too many first cousins that are Muslim that got married. I don't know too many of those cases. I've heard of it, but I never knew the ins and outs. Like I didn't know. All right, it's your first cousin, but that's your cousin on your mom's side.
It's not
You're
that
not blood,
common. It's not that common, and it's not your interpretation.
As far as I know.
Yeah,
but
see?
I don't live in Egypt. I didn't grow up in the Middle East or Islamic countries. It may be more prevalent than I know, but I think the point that I'm getting at is everybody has extremists. The environment that the Islamic people and the code of their religion has resulted in this kind of quote unquote deformity, if you want to say that. Mm-hmm. Their extremists like to do this. Just like, Catholic priests, they're extremists. Man. They like to do certain things with kids or they like to control, like you've heard these church priests that are super extremists and they interpret the religion in a certain way.
Absolutely.
And then they go around yelling at people saying, kill fags, or it's just like whatever you believe in is wrong. So our way of getting you back to religion is by degrading whatever you believe in.
Yeah.
Those type of things.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the result of that. Is that worse than that? I mean,
no.
Is anything worse than killing someone? Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it is. But the point is, for some reason, they've grown up, and that's the result.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but I think what can help with, at least with because this isn't not a problem in that culture, but in the Islamic culture, is the modernization of the religion, which you have seen in America.
Yes.
The kids that have grown up Muslim in America, that are more in touch with being a human being and not being held back because of whatever the religion might have said or was interpreted in that way. And people are more aware, and people understand that it's not that I want to take what I want from this religion. No, I understand that it might be interpreted a different way per person.
Yeah, but taking what you want too. I mean, you have to remember how long ago was the Bible written? How long ago was that? And how many people manipulated the text just so it fit what they needed to in every religion. Mm-hmm. Like it's for control. It's to control the mind of the people. So like times are changing, and like take the best part out of it and optimize, just like we do in jiu-jitsu or anything else. Like
just like nutrition, you're going to take the best parts of nutrition and you're going to use that for your benefit. You're not just going to eat everything.
Yeah.
No, you're going to eat these greens because they have these micronutrients, and you're going to eat these proteins because these are the cleanest sources that I could find, and it's going to optimize my performance and my muscle growth, and I'm going to drink this kind of water and not that kind of water. Same thing, really. You got to optimize your life.
It's easy when you have someone else to blame for your problems. It's easy like that. We as humans easily default back into playing victim, and that's super easy to do. And it's easy for, it's your fault, right? And you did this. And it's so much easier, I think, to look at someone that's Muslim or black when you're white, or if you're black, looking at someone who's white and saying, or what's it called when they just have the eyes on and they have one of those things over their head, Abe?
I mean, that's the hijab. I forget what that.
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
But it's so easy for like a mom from here that's like driving a soccer mom from here to point at them and say, that person's not like me. I don't see myself in that person. Therefore, they're like the other.
Yeah.
And Joe Rogan talks a lot about the other, and like we learned about it. So like, just when you find separation from yourself and then you can blame it, all of a sudden they're not like you, and you can blame them for your problems. Now you have a scapegoat. Mm-hmm. Now you don't have to focus on yourself.
Definitely.
Now you don't have to focus on your own shit.
Definitely. And another thing that people don't take into account, unless you grow up in that family, is a woman that's wearing a full hijab, right? They're covering their entire body. Let's say just their hair. They don't even cover their face.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's just one part of the people. Most of them don't cover their entire face. They just cover their hair. They cover their body. Nowadays, everybody's clothes are getting tighter. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a scarf or not. But for the most part, they're covering their body. The average American growing up would say, "Oh, that's sexism. They're keeping the woman down. They're not allowing them to be themselves." But when you grow up with that person, that woman is proud of what she's doing. Mm-hmm. I mean, the religion said, hey, try this, do this,
Right.
cover yourself, be modest. Let's just say that. So that girl grows up thinking that. So she covers herself. She covers her hair. Why do you do that? So that you don't get men stalking you.
Right.
So that's what happens. And now these women, they grow up covered, and they don't get men stalking them for the most part, but they're also proud that they're being modest, that they're not showing off their bodies, that they can show off their personality, and people can get attracted to them by their personality, not by the way their body looks or the way their hips look. So, you know, that they're actually very proud of that.
Yeah.
Whereas someone who doesn't understand that, they're going to think that that woman feels
Being
suppressed and she's trapped in a corner and the man is telling her husband is forcing her. No, that's not the case.
Yeah, man.
If the woman is married to the husband and they live in America and they're modern and they understand what kind of world we live in these days, and the wife decides, I'm not wearing that scarf anymore, or I'm gonna keep the scarf, but I'm gonna wear clothes that fit me better. I want to start wearing jeans, whether they're tight or not. Who cares? What is the husband gonna do? He's gonna say, all right.
Yeah. People always have a different, like, did you ever see that meme with the donkey and the couple? And like one frame they're walking it and everyone's yelling at them, what idiots, how come they're not riding the donkey? In the next frame they're riding the donkey. How could they be so cruel to the donkey by riding it?
Yep.
Next, you know what I mean? Like,
Same.
no matter what you do, everyone's gonna have another opinion.
And your opinion is gonna get hate and love. Doesn't matter what kind of opinion it is. Whether you like coffee, whether you like cell phones.
Perfect segue to our sponsor, Coach.
Chimera Coffee. If you want to increase your brain activity, drink Chimera Coffee. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't
for sure.
matter what yoga. If you do yoga, you're labeled this. If you do this, you're labeled that. But it takes something that's very humbling to suppress those judging feelings.
That's
like
it.
I don't walk around judging people anymore. I don't really care, and it's because I've grown up training martial arts and being humbled on a daily basis.
Yep.
At least on a weekly basis, and it's been pounded in me so much. Like, you're not the man. Relax, bro. Calm down. You had a good run, but there's a bigger fish out there. On a regular basis, not just like, oh shit, every now and then ego gets crushed a little bit, boom, but I'm back at it. No, jiu-jitsu, at least, and striking martial arts, whatever martial arts I've done has been an ego crusher, but it's been a character builder, and it's been something that I feel secure about myself, and that takes the edge away. So now if somebody's acting a certain way, I don't really care anymore. Like, I don't, whether it's acting a certain way to me or they like to wear this or they like to say that. Like, I don't
You're not
worry.
attached.
Yeah.
It's just like,
but it takes something like that, an ego killer, on a daily basis to
for sure.
to ease up, right?
For sure. So how did you go from the playground? How did you go from there in Jersey City and get involved in martial arts, Coach?
Well, I was always involved in martial arts somehow. I was just always interested.
Yeah.
I grew up watching Jean-Claude Van Damme, Arnold Schwarzenegger action movies, just Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan. Those are the guys I looked up to. Man, I want to be bodybuilder like Arnold. Man, I want to do spinning back kicks like Van Damme.
Yeah.
Man, I want to do all those funky, like, fight 10 people at once with a broomstick like Jackie Chan, and be able to do those flips and cartwheels over tables, and he's having fun in those. Like, you could see, like, it's a comedy.
Yeah.
It's action comedy. So those are the thing, and Power Rangers and whatever else I can get my hands on, Ninja Turtles, from a young age. So I've always been into martial arts. I just didn't have the means to do it. And my parents put me in it for like 6 months, Taekwondo, when I was like 10 or something. And they just didn't want to pay for it anymore. It's expensive. So that was a taste that I got. But, you know, that feeling was always in me. And I always wanted to do it. And that was always something that when I knew that when I had the opportunity to do it, I would make it happen. And eventually, just when I got old enough and I got a job, like 17, I think I was when I was 15, my dad started bringing me to the gym, Gold's Gym. And I'm like, oh crap, really? I'm going to Gold's Gym? That's where Arnold worked out at, you know, like, and he had a friend, my dad still works in a prison. And he had a friend that was a corrections officer that used to work out there. And my dad is very into martial arts too. I would watch the movies he watched. That's why I watched those Van Damme movies, because those are the ones he put on. So one day the guy's like, just go, just come. Oh, bring your son too. He's into martial art. Bring him too. I'll train you guys. Just meet me at this time. When I'm done with my workout, we'll move around. And he had a little group of people that he already was doing that with. So that's how it started. I started training with him. His name is Al Dennis, Filipino martial arts. This guy's like 50.
Like PTK type stuff? PT Kali? The Filipino stick fighting
exactly,
and knife fighting?
Exactly. Kali, Penchek Silat. There's like a couple of different names. I don't even know all of them. That's when I started training like real martial arts with, when I say real martial arts, I mean like really training martial arts, not just playing around. I was like a 15-year-old skinny kid and everybody else is an adult. So literally it was me and maybe 5 or 6 other grown ass men, adults. Yeah. And at least half of them were like muscle bound guys because they're all working out in a gym. Yeah. And it was a lot of just like, some knife defense, but it was a lot of open hand, like what to do when somebody throws a punch at you, what to do when somebody grabs you, things like that. So it was a lot of slapping the arms and elbowing. So like I would go home with huge marks on my arms.
Teachers are calling your parents. Excuse me, Mr. and Mrs. Awad. Is there a problem at home?
And my dad would be like, no, there's no problem. I was training with him last night. Boom. Because my dad, again, he still is into martial arts. And he encouraged me to train, and he likes to hear stories. So if his son's a part of a story, why not? So I would go home with these big man fingerprints on my arm from just being slapped or being punched, and something I love. And then a few years later, one of my good friends, he started training at this little school, and this guy was doing mixed martial arts. By that time I was really into the UFC. Because I finally got a taste of it. And I was like, oh, crap, this is exactly what I'm interested in. Boom. And I started watching it. And then I started understanding what jiu-jitsu was. And I already knew a lot of martial arts, what they were. But
not too much groundwork yet.
Not too much, because no one really did. Right. But when the UFC came...
Gracie's.
Yeah, that's when I really started. And it wasn't the Gracies that did it. It was just me watching UFC and Pride. And like, oh, okay, what's that? Oh, that's the ground. Oh, okay, so... They're referencing Hoist Gracie. All right, so go watch those fights. So I didn't get introduced to UFC and jiu-jitsu by Hoist Gracie. I got introduced to jiu-jitsu from, Carlos Newton submitting people and Matt Hughes submitting people and wrestling people and just like seeking the knowledge essentially.
Was Ken Shamrock one of the OGs back then too?
He was an OG. I started watching right after his first like UFC stint. Yeah. I probably started watching at like UFC, I want to say 50, maybe around there. All right. So that's when my friend started training, and I was like, "Oh crap, let me come with you." And this guy was doing a little bit of what I was already doing, like knife defenses and stick defenses, stick fighting, whatever. But he was also doing like jiu-jitsu one day a week. For like 20 minutes, half of the class was jiu-jitsu. I'm like, oh, perfect. That's what I want to do. Cool. And he was doing striking pad work. I'm like, perfect. That's what I want to do. I know Taekwondo is not the greatest thing. I don't want to do that anymore. People in the UFC are jabbing and crossing and roundhouse kicking to the legs. That's what I want to do. I started going there. I had a job. My parents were like, sure, if you want to pay for it, go ahead. So I would take the bus with them. We would go 3 times a week, and we just started training. That's actually where I met Marcos.
All right.
Because he started teaching that 20, 30 minute once a week of jiu-jitsu. Because him and the other gentleman were training partners.
Now, where is this? Where were you taking the bus to?
That was Secaucus.
So you're going from Jersey City to Secaucus. Yeah. You saved up your money working just so you could go train. Yep. And you wanted that split between striking and jiu-jitsu. And Marcos comes along and starts teaching the half an hour of jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Oh, that's hot. And then, so now how old are you around this time now?
When I started really training like mixed martial arts stuff, that was probably 17.
Nice. And what was it like when you first met Marcos, man?
I don't remember. I guess, again, I probably met Marcos when I was 17 or 18. I didn't really know him too much. I just knew him as the guy that would come by, the cool guy that would come by every Friday. I think it was Friday, and teach jiu-jitsu, and just like, he was really cool. Just like you know him today. Really cool, really smooth, hip-hoppy. His jiu-jitsu was the same before, just like slick, and he likes to trap people. He doesn't like to crush you. And that's how we remember him. And, you know, again, I grew up in a culture, that hip hop culture, around people like Marcos. So I took a liking to Marcos. You know, we became friends, me and my other friend. And then it just happened like that. Like, I think the other guy, he had to leave the place that he was renting out. And then just after a while, I just got more and more into jiu-jitsu, let's put it that way. And, you know, Marcos really started, you know, just taking me in as someone, as a mentor, if you will, without me even realizing.
For sure.
And then I just started following him around wherever he was training.
Fuck yeah.
And literally that's how it started, just me. And at that point I was just training. I did a couple of competitions, but nothing serious. I was just training. But Marcos was the one to really allow me to hone in on training. Yeah. And understand how to get better and really start what's the word I'm looking for? Really start humbling me a lot. So that's where the growth comes.
The ego crusher.
The ego crusher.
He's good at that.
Yeah. And, you know, I grew up a young kid. I knew everybody. The high school I went to, my brother went there. My sister, my youngest sister, the youngest of my older sisters went there. So I went into high school as a freshman knowing a lot of the people. I didn't get picked on really a couple times, but nothing that would change my life. You know, I didn't get bullied. Let's put it that way. Bullying is like a constant everyday thing. I never got that. Right. Just from my brother. So you know, somebody picks on you 3 times in 4 years, you're doing pretty well. Like people like me. I guess I have a good personality. I was also into comedy. I either watched a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie or like a Ben Stiller movie. Nice. And that's what I grew up watching, and stand-up comedy. So, you know, I guess I was like a funny guy or whatever, or I like to clown around and make jokes. Yeah. And I was the type of guy that, and I still think I am, that I'll hang out with you or you. I'll hang out with the most popular guy in school. Yeah, whatever. Or the least popular person. Yeah. Just whoever's cool. Yeah, exactly. And I guess everybody kind of gets that, and they like you for it. So I never I didn't really have a hard time. Let's put it that way. Yeah, so you weren't taking martial arts to be quote unquote bully proof like kids are today. You were taking it because you were just so into and in love with the art form. Yes. Now, I understood that bad shit could happen. So I wanted to be prepared, and it empowered me a lot. And when you first get empowered, that's when your ego grows with it. Yeah. So it takes getting empowered and then getting humbled. Right. And then that process keep forming and squashing your powerful feelings. I find one of the most amazing things that, like, I don't know if you want to call it part of the subforce ideology or whatever it is, but one of the most amazing things is like the more we learn, like it's like we're learning to get away from the situation. Like the more that you learn about jiu-jitsu, the more that you learn about the art, it's like you also learn how to get out of a situation. Oh yeah, like definitely. You don't even want to use it. Definitely, and I think most martial artists will say that. Again, it's that whole idea of getting the power and then being humbled, and that process taking place. And then, some people don't even need that much humbling too. Like someone like yourself, you came in, you were already humbled. You just started training jiu-jitsu. You didn't really need to get humbled too much, right? I mean, everybody needs to get humbled in a sense. But I had my own internal journey of humiliation and getting humbled, but young guys, young guys need it a lot more, or people that had it easy throughout life, really easy. Those people, they have this sense. But you grow and you start to learn how helpless other people are, and it's not worth it for you to you have nothing to prove. Yeah, and you can see right through their facade or their act or their insecurity if they're trying to start something with you. Yeah, and the fact that you have all this power and you know how much more powerful you are than other people in the sense of responsibility. Yeah, and your own protection. Like, man, a little jiu-jitsu goes a long way against someone who knows nothing. The gap is huge. Huge. But when 2 people know jiu-jitsu, it's a different story. But when somebody doesn't know, it's like a huge gap. Yeah. You just need the guts. Yeah. You just need the guts to say, all right, it's going down. I got to protect myself. And not cracking under pressure. But the pressure also comes from rolling a lot in jiu-jitsu. The fact that we can train hard and roll and go back and forth with each other every day, and you get arm barred and you get choked and you're trying hard and you get exhausted and on a daily basis, and somebody beats you, then the next person doesn't. That alone is like a process in itself. Yeah. And that alone kind of humbles you or gives you the understanding that, okay, I can handle pressure.
Yeah.
So if something goes down, I know I can think under pressure. I've done it before.
Right.
So someone who doesn't, that's one of the, and I hate to segue into this, but that's one of the problems with a lot of traditional martial arts. It's that they don't spar, and you don't get to see what works and what doesn't, and you don't get to see if you work or you don't, if you're going to crack under pressure or you don't.
Right.
So, that's why boxing is so useful. That's why Muay Thai and other forms of kickboxing are so useful. That's why jiu-jitsu is so useful. Wrestling so useful, because those sports, those arts spar all the time, and they narrow down the techniques that work.
Yeah.
It's simple as that.
It is for sure translated to other spots in my life, Coach. Like as far as confidence is concerned, and just decision making, things like that, because what a difference. And we say the same thing in yoga when you put the body under that stress, or you have to learn how to breathe. And when you do that, but it's a big difference now. You're putting the body under that stress through full range of motion with another person that's your size or bigger choking you out.
Yeah, or smaller choking you out.
Yeah. When you have to make those decisions. Well, there's not too many people at Subforce that are that much smaller than me. But I'm just saying.
I'm smaller than you.
No, really. But
yeah, I see what you're saying.
So when you have to make that decision, and when then that you're losing breath and still get to think clearly, that's really it's really learning how to go deep and how to dig.
Yeah.
So then, how did Subforce come about? So you're studying with Marcos. You got all this going on. You're training. You're in Sea Caucus. You're following wherever he's going, and he inadvertently took you under his wing without you really knowing. Taught you all this stuff, and then you like open your eyes and they're like, "Fuck, Marcos has been my mentor. I'm getting really good at this," and
he's humbling me.
And the whole time, how'd you learn all your production techniques and
just over time, literally just over time.
So you would like just go home and play around and teach yourself?
Yeah, literally that. Just
what got you interested? Like, what were you doing that you even got interested in it? Because you're more than just like taking a picture on Instagram and using Facebook. Like, you're more than just your average tech savvy person.
I would tell you that I'm computer illiterate. That's what I would tell you. But I guess I don't know, just life. Just you figure out you want to do something and you just try to do it. You figure it out.
Yeah.
So when I decided I wanted to start a podcast, I talked to somebody who did, and they told me what equipment they used. I researched it and trusted them and bought it, and then they gave me tips on how to use it, and then I researched more and studied a little bit more and figured out the bare bones, and literally just sometimes you just have to figure out the bare minimum to get the job done.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
And that bare minimum gives you a big picture of the thing. I knew that I don't need to learn how to use the most complex audio software
back to the camera
get the result
conversation.
Exactly, to get the result that I need.
Yeah.
Sometimes that helps, but I mean, without going into that too much, camera, everything I learned is from other people. Simple as that. For the most part.
But now you and Marcos do the majority of the production, or all of the production and the design and everything for Subforce and for Show the Art.
Yeah.
And it's hot. So like, where did your design, like, is it you and Marcos are on Photoshop? You guys are
exactly.
you're all over different programs. So just, again, picking it up, working with it, figuring out what you need to do, YouTube, that type of shit.
Just that stuff. Just one day, Marcos was like,
I got to make a t-shirt. How do I do it?
Exactly. And Marcos will say, hey, I'm using Photoshop. Here, get it. Take it. I have it. Play with it. And then he'll research on how to do some stuff and tell me, or I'll research and figure it out myself and just grow from there. And then, even Sarah.
Yeah.
She taught me a lot on Photoshop. That's what she does. That's one of her jobs.
Yeah.
So, and then photography. She taught me a lot about pretty much all the stuff that I know about photography. I learned from her.
Me too, from my wife.
Yeah,
also.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, just like jiu-jitsu, I learned from people. Everything I know, I kind of I've always been the type, and I always say it like, I grew up the youngest of my 5 siblings. I have 2 younger ones now, but for the most part, I grew up the youngest of 5. So in my head, I feel like I finally realized what I was doing. If you listen to this episode, it's the first half of the episode from his podcast. If you want to listen to the second half, if you think my story is pretty cool, or you want to hear more, you're just kind of at the edge of your seat. You're like, man, I want to know the rest of Abe's life. Go to Gabe's podcast. I have the link in the info, and you can listen to the second half.